Good morning, folks. Welcome to today's live stream. Let's point out some of the risk I see on Bitcoin this week. Goodness. So, last time we saw this kind of compressionary range on Bitcoin was here, where we got super tight and super compressed with a bunch of potential energy, which we have as a metric on Wave PM. Whenever we get this tight, which happened here, and now most recently last week, is we typically get pretty significant trend whenever we see that signal. So in prior examples, we did have a little bit less volatility overhead than we currently do. Although, to be frank, I'm not particularly seeing that as an issue for this expansion. So what we need to be concerned about is the current flag structure that we've formed. This little bit of lateral trading we saw here is super similar to this little bit of lateral trading we saw here. And there's a pretty simple reason for it. On your shorter time frames, it's very hard just to continuously expand forever and ever and ever. Well, the market just doesn't work that way. And I know that's a bit of a short answer, but it's pretty reliable, right? You cannot just continuously expand in the same direction forever without consequence. And let's see if I can actually scroll back to October here. I wonder if they keep that much history on the 1 hour chart. I hope they do. Nice. And if you ever want to scroll faster on TradingView, hold down Shift and use the mouse wheel. It's the most convenient way to get around on your charts. So what I'm particularly concerned with is this, because the Wave PM readings are very similar. So let's just zoom in on this price action here. Very nice. So we had our tight compressionary range, right? Then there's the slight downward droop that begins, and as soon as we break support, stop losses beget stop losses, and we see all those positions squeezed at the same time. Then we are confronted with a brief period of compressionary volatility, like so. Why? Well, because we have an overexpanded plume of mass, like so. And that results in a compressionary period, which generates potential energy on shorter time frames, right? If you have high potential energy on shorter time frames, that means you can resume trend, right? Which happened to be the case here. The new plume of mass, CCI is weighted down, resulting in trend resumption. So we're getting that same compression here. Actually, the implication is currently up ever so slightly on our current 1 hour Bitcoin chart. Although if you do break significant support and you do flag, trend continuation is somewhat predictable. However, let's talk about the pivots that are actually defining trend on the current time frame, shall we? All right, so we're going to use the 2 hour chart because that's where our longest overexpanded period best fits into play. Let's take a look at what that looks like. Nice. So it's roughly the 500 period that's defining trend. Beautiful. Compressionary range is still holding. Very nice. So our mean inversion pivot started all the way up here at 9,800. We have slowly worked our way down to 9,000, and that is going to continuously get lower. Let's actually figure out for how long, just use that basic slope to figure it out. Over the next 2 days, I'm assuming we're going to, or 4 days, so about half a week before Bitcoin is forced to trend or not trend, right? Because this is still technically expansion. This is still technically downward trend. If we do break inside this pivot here, right, the purple band, that means trend is over. You can currently set that up by using the 1.25 standard deviation of a 500 period Bollinger Band, just defaulted on your chart. And well, we have a nice compressionary range that seems to be holding. I would not be surprised if we just continue to go sideways while we eventually meet up with this pivot. And then if we go inside, well, that'll be bullish for Bitcoin, at least in the short term, because we will be forced to stay in this compressionary period until this plume of mass reads below the 0.7 value, which means a state of compression, or at least a state of relative compression, as opposed to previous price action, which means we can resume trend from that compressionary condition. So what does it mean? Trend can resume to the downside anytime, and we can just measure that by the re-expansion of a new plume of mass down here, which would take the form of a heavily weighted CCI and trend continuation. So yeah, that's it. We can talk about the current expansion on the 15-minute chart to the upside, because that should be defining a trend. Right, at least short-term trend. Because if you're trying to get yourself a short entry right now, that's actually loading up pretty nicely. Look at that. So currently, if we were to go below 8,200, you could reliably take a short to at least 8,000, or aim even lower than that value if you so desired to bet on longer-term trend continuation, which increases the profit ratio but lowers the probability of the trade actually landing. Okay. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to get your altcoin comments in so I can look at them. All right. Although I wouldn't be surprised if Bitcoin just goes sideways for the next 4 days until it collides with the mean inversion pivot and is forced to make up its mind. If it actually does end up in a bullish mean inversion condition, awesome. If we see trend continuation, I would probably expect us to retest previous lows. And I know that's a pretty painful to think about. Although what's pretty interesting is this mean inversion condition that we completed here, we're just trading directly on top of the pivot, or at least the target, which really doesn't inspire a lot of confidence in either direction. So not really inclined to take too many bets on this chart. Not yet anyway. Because we are in a super obvious bear flag. I'd just like to see a break of support before betting on more short action. And, well, upside is currently not yet implied, although the pivot is close. So we'll see how that plays out. Now we'll talk about XRP briefly. It does appear we are beginning the start of a small uptrend. We are so overexpanded to the downside, we cannot even accurately define trend up here. So let's go to the 4-hour. All right, and let's just take a look at this with quad CCI, because that can be effective. Although this liquidation wick to the downside is does paint a very good case for further upside. All right, this is currently loaded to the 500 period. We're going to switch it to the 200. I am currently filling some moving boxes and sipping on a dangerously caffeinated energy drink, because that's the only way to do it. All right. Yeah, trends defined. You can use quad CCI to take longs on this. Just a little concerned about the depth of the swing low, because this does imply trend. Just be aware we could dip down to 2,790 based on quad CCI and still have trend defined. Doge is seeing some bullish volume this week. Always keeping an eye on Doge as far as long-term investment opportunities go. Let's take a look at the pull on the next chart so we have a bit more history. And go to the daily. Wouldn't really buy in just yet. So there are... So if we do spike up to like 333 and then take a dip, I'm totally going to buy some Doge, because we are testing long-term support. It's a meme coin. If you buy into this, you can't really stop out. You just hold it until you pump next time. So dollar cost averaging is an option as well. All right, let's check out 80A. What? There it is. Oof, this is a hard chart to read. Just on the daily. We keep having brief implications of trend, and it's actually pretty cool. Here, let me show you. So we're actually getting cyclical trends in this compression range. Right, or we have this comprehensive net expansion to the downside. I would have actually shorted that personally. Quad CCI doesn't like it. And then we had this brief upward expansion where everything is in confluence to the upside, and that fails. You know, with this current downward expansion, upward expansion, I'm not really inclined to take a position until we breach resistance, retest, and then start to see a roll up. I would take along there, but I wouldn't take along inside the compression area range, just because we have implied expansions and they keep on failing. Well, not truly failing, like the conditions still pay out. Let's see. So based on this, and we'll just assume the extreme swing low. So entry would be here. That's 10% there, and then this signal here was 17%. So I guess a scalp could be in order, but I'm not really betting on long-term trend just yet in either direction. All right, check those comments. I'll take a look at IOTA. Thanks. I thought they said I looked a lot of thanks, but you used a capital I. I get it. Hey, yeah, that's an uptrend, man. Quad CCI. That's all you got to do. Right, 14 period CCI roll-up is going to be your friend. We can set an alert for that. Why not? All right, we want to see Dad's ultimate quad CCI. We want to see plot crossing up, value, -100. Cool. Create. That's all we want to do, right? Because we have slope of probability of volatility. We have defined trend. We could even define mean reversion pivots if we want to. We're seeing a new cloud of volatility overhead, which does imply strong volume to the upside, right? Because if you're re-expanding previously overexpanded periods, that does imply trend, or at least significant force being applied. So next coin is BCH. Take a look. Oof. I'm going to use BCH ABC because it's easier to look at. Ooh. Okay. We can work on the 4-hour chart based on this small overexpansion we're seeing there. Yeah, this is technically a bullish condition. All right, so you can either enter at 2555 or 26399. Those would be the two long opportunities. And then target would be 29, or if you want to bet on swing high, maybe 31. Okay. Okay, that's it. This was fun. I got to continue packing. I love you guys. I'll talk to you tomorrow at 1 p.m. MST. Ciao. And I'm going to turn the stream off this time.